Namaste. How are you guys doing today? Gosh, look at my hair. Let's see what I look like. That's quite funny. I've been running around this house after my 8-year-old to get him into bed on a Sunday night. It's a lot of work. So how are you all doing? Kobe. Lovely Kobe 2.0 Mexico. Ooh, Kobe. Your house collapsed. Ooh, that doesn't sound like fun. What happened? Wind? Trees? Another friend of mine, Jeremy, had a tree blow over on his home. Went through his ceiling, through his roof in his bedroom. Piece of the tree in his bedroom. Interesting dilemma. Had to go and stay in a hotel for a while, or what do you call it? Bed and breakfast. What do they call these places these days? Anyway, you know what I mean. So, yeah, I'm sorry I'm late. I had to run after my little boy 3 times. His mom doesn't operate on a good boundary system. So I have to compensate for her lack of boundaries. And now I've got a little doggy at the door moaning at me. I don't know if you can hear him. I'm going to let him moan for a while because I called him about 6 times to get him to come in the house, and he was running around in the bushes. Now he's at the door calling for the room service, and the room service is otherwise engaged. So big love to you. And Bolenath, Sabka Sat, Har Har Mahadev, Jai Guru Shankar Bhagwan Namaha. So, we're going to be talking about meditation. This is a topic very close to my heart. I haven't actually structured the conversation at all. I thought I'd see who was in the room and go by the feeling. So, what element had created this ravage? And we'll use proper sandbags this time. Ooh, sandbags. Proper sandbags. Oh. Yeah. So, we've got 10 of you in the room at the moment, it seems. There was 11. I think I bought the pants off someone. They've got to change their pants. It's all good and well. I understand that happens. Meditation. In Sanskrit, we talk about dhyana. And there's a lot written and spoken about meditation by, from what my opinion seems to be, people that have possibly practiced less than what they've read. And what happens with meditation is you start training and you start seeing a couple of lights. This is very, very early on to your training. And some people think that, oh, well, that's like now they've mastered meditation because they can see lights. And by lights, I mean you start to see colors, color bands, spectrum within your head. And then you start to see other things. You start to see light. You start to hear things. You start to, you can go to a point where you move directly into a lucid dream. And this is the point where people think, well, I must be a teacher, right? And it probably takes like another, I don't know, 10,000 hours over and above that or more. And then there's a shift in the awareness and the consciousness that brings, yeah. Well, I think what it is we're living in a fast-paced society. Now, I was lucky. Is it luck? I made myself lucky by making myself unlucky. Well, I was never unlucky. I was always lucky. But I made choices when I was young that I was not going to go to university. I got sucked into the 9 to 5 for a little while when I went into restaurant management. I flew into that quick. I flew through the qualification very quickly, fast-tracked everything. I was a very quick learner. And I'd been working in restaurants since I was 15. Luckily, I realized very quickly, hold on, I'm getting, as Elvis said, getting stuck in a trap. Ooh. And I could see what it was doing to me. And because I loved life so much, baby, I had to throw the keys, literally throw the keys at the owner. Like, there's your keys, take them, not for me. And I became a hermit when I was young. So meditation became my full-time pursuit when I was very, very young. You know, we're talking in the mid latter part after the mid 90s. 96, I was pretty much going full-time meditation. 97, I was full-time. And the universe brought things to me because I was lucky, because I made sacrifices. And then that took me on a journey that it was full-time for me most of my life. So most people don't have that situation where you can literally draw yourself up a timetable that starts, 3:30 in the morning and run your day according to your training regime. And then you can grade it up hour by hour. But without that, there's still a lot that can be achieved with consistency, with solidarity of training, with getting a rhythm. And having discovered a deeper essence in the jungles when I lived in the wild. Namaste. Yeah, 96 was a powerful year of transformation. 97, 98 brought it into crystallization. Namaste. Shalom, Vincent. Hope you're good. Hope you're all good. Namaste, Luna and Anna. Hope you guys are all smiling deeply and keeping the heart and the dream alive. So what I discovered was when I went into the wilderness. So I learned meditation in all different sort of types of meditation. I was lucky enough to have found a master when I was 12. So in the late 80s, I found a master. Now that's very rare. He was a shihan, which is in martial arts, you become a sensei, which is a teacher. But then when you become a shihan, there's no grade for shihan, and not very few sensei become shihan. You've got to have mastered the psychic spiritual side of the martial arts to become a shihan, because it means master, grandmaster. And it means that you can manipulate your ki with your will, which means that you can project that force out of your body. And obviously, the training to develop that is zazen. So I started training in zazen when I was really young, when I was 12. And that became my life, because I was competing high-level martial arts. And zazen gave me the edge in the ring. There was a selfish element to it. My shihan took me aside, put me in his sensei class when I was very young, when I was a junior grade, said to me, the spirit's strong in you. You should train in this. You will become a master one day. So I listened to him. I was so honored to be taken into the sensei class because I was a little kid. I had no business being in a class with fourth Dan adults, people who've been training in martial arts for like decades, and I'm in this class with him learning how to practice this meditation. And I was the only child who was brought into this class because I had a innate natural ability and past life recollection after drowning when I was little. So I remembered my time as a martial arts master when I was in other life. So anyway, that was my doorway into meditation. So I think that's a good place to start. What is zazen? Zazen is the simplest form of meditation. Now, you're going to find that with meditation, you get easy on one side of the spectrum and simple on the other side of the spectrum. And there's literally a line of distinction between easy and simple. I have got to let that little dog in because the little guy is going to wet himself. So please give me just a second. Such a noisy little dog. Wake up all the neighbors. So yeah, on the one side of the spectrum, you've got easy. And please let me know if my audio is at all rough, soft, distorted, anything. If I should turn it up, if I should turn it down, give me a heads up, please, people. In case I'm talking here and I'm going to listen to this recording and it's awesome. I mean, awful. I'm hoping it's awesome. So do please give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the chat. So Zazen is the simplest form of meditation, but the most difficult. Creative visualization is a form of meditative training, but it is the easiest. But there's complexity to the action, and so there's more going on. Zazen literally is this simple. You breathe through your hara. Your hara is, there's a point below your belly button going towards your sacral plexus. And if you go down about that far, then an angle like that. So you go down from your belly button about that far. Then at an angle like that, about that distance, you go inside the body. It's about a 45 degree angle. And at the base of the spine, just before the base of the spine, there's a little point that touches. It's connected to the sacral plexus chakra. It's a storehouse, it's a storing point. When you're training in Kung Fu or Qigong, you have the same place, which is storing your jing, where you circulate your qi through your tantin, and you store it at that point. So you're focusing your attention in that point, below your belly button. If you imagine your belly button going down at an angle towards just above your perineum and where it intersects your spine, there's like, if you can feel it, you got to learn to feel your way around your body. Anyway, you focus your attention there on your body, and you have a single point, and you allow your concentration to be that single point. And you train with both eyes open and with your eyes closed. And you just breathe in and out. And you allow your breathing to be through the abdominal center. And so you're breathing down. Not breathing out so much, not breathing up. Because your breath has 3 compartments. When you breathe, you first breathe in, and it's a downward pressure. Then there's an expansiveness to the side, and then it expands up to the top. And so you got to understand these 3 elements of the breath relate to the 3 energetic elements within the body. Your jing, your qi, and your shen, as they call it, or your etheric field, your astral field, and your high consciousness field. I like to call it your causal field, but people don't understand what that means. So let's speak of it in terms of your spiritual body. And it activates your mental framework. So when you're breathing up into the top part of your lungs, the frontal lobes of your head, intellect, are being stimulated. When you're breathing outwards, your emotional body is being stimulated. When you're breathing down, that analysis and rational potential, not intellect, people mistake this, the rational analytical potential and sensual potential, smell especially, will become accentuated. So you breathe down to root yourself, and it's all about grounding. Now, that's not what I wanted to share with you here specifically, but I want to give you that as an idea. That's the goal that we want to move towards. And the belly. We call it the belly because it's the bell. And the bell, when it becomes active, you can hear the resonance, the reason. And that resonance, that reason, when you breathe down into your belly, brings about that clarity of the analytical potential, which is really fundamentally important for grounding your energy. Now, everybody wants to activate their upper chakras and get into like a, ooh, look, I'm feeling dizzy. No. Everybody wants to feel that high. It's almost like a drug, activating the upper chakras. What you're really looking for is the opposite. You're looking to activate the deep rooting chakras, because that is where you gain your most potential momentum. As you stimulate those root chakras, that builds rhythm. And the rhythm builds resonance. And the resonance builds strategically towards the upper chakras. So the goal is to keep the energy focused low and allow it to gently ebb and flow up into the higher centers. You don't want to rush the centers with energy, because when you do that, they become sort of like a car motor. If you turn on a car motor and you rev it up too fast, it's not good for the motor. It's more likely to overheat. If you slowly heat up your car from cold, like let's say it's winter, and you allow that motor to slowly heat up, you won't strip the gasket and the seals. And when you strip the seals because of heating up your car too fast, that's when you get a loss of power, a loss of compression in the motor. And that loss of compression means that when you're going up a hill, you don't have the same vroom behind your acceleration. Your fuel efficiency drops as well. So it works in the same way, the body, as a motor. You want to maintain the compression, and that compression is focused here. So there are three fundamental points in the body. There's this center, there's the expansive center related to the heart, and then there's the breathing up towards the throat, which activates the head and activates the upper chakras. But by activating that too much, we generally, as Westerners, tend to breathe up instead of down. In martial arts, you're taught to breathe down because it deepens your concentration. Now, in dhyana or meditation, we're looking for an increase of concentration. So concentration is really the name of the game. And by concentration, I mean to take the field of consciousness and to allow it to condense, to contract. So we're talking about Saturn. First Saturn, first the contraction. If we look at the fire chakra, the Manipura chakra, Mani meaning gem, Pura meaning everywhere, the gem that touches everywhere. That red triangle from a Vedic perspective is pointing downwards for a really good reason. In the West, we speak of the fire triangle and we see a red triangle. In Asia, we see that red triangle pointing downwards because they understand that we need this will and focus to be grounding, to be rooting down towards the root chakra. So this is really, really probably the most important thing to realize, that when you start practicing your meditation, I end up getting my concentration here. But, and there's 3 points. There's a point here, there's a point here, and there's a point here. To understand, there's 3 different points first. You first start with just training your concentration. You put your finger here and you feel there's this bridge, this little bridge point. And this bridge point is where you focus to develop concentration specifically. Focus. And that's what we talk about when we talk about zazen. So where you want to get towards is zazen. That's where you want to get to. Zazen is so easy that it's extremely difficult. Right? It's such a simple practice that it's extremely difficult. Because all you're doing is you're allowing your consciousness to inhabit a single point. And that point becomes all there is. And when you get into the ring, there's one point. And that point is within your enemy. I use the word enemy in terms of like in a ring fight situation. And that point is all there is. There is nothing else in the universe. There's just that point. And there's no thought. There's nothing. When the person comes towards you, there's no thought about the human being. There's just that point. So when they strike towards you, you just hold that point and you allow your instincts and your intuition to guide your body so that you're not thinking about what to do. so that your higher self automatically just kicks in and takes over, maneuvers your body where it wants you, does this with the foot, the hand, whatever, and then you slip out of that trance and you notice what you've just done, but you're not coherently doing it. This is zazen state of consciousness, and if you on a high level of competition, you have to be in that flow, or you won't get to national champion sort of ship levels of training and competition, because it's tight competition. So you can meditate with your eyes open and your eyes closed. That's where you want to get towards, because the intense development of concentration necessary for that gives you the power and the momentum, so that you can allow the rhythms and frequencies of your heart and your energy system to float towards higher chakras while maintaining the root chakra. Very important. So when we start, what I was going to explain to you guys is, and I don't think I should spend too much time on this, so let me know what you guys think. Left foot. Yeah, left foot. So left foot is your earth center. Right foot is obviously your fire center. The right foot is receptively bringing the current up. The left foot is channeling the current into the earth. So there's a give and take between the left and right foot. Now the right hand is active and giving in the same way that your left foot is giving. And the left hand is receiving in the same way that your right foot is receiving. And the head is the wheel that turns these two. So you've got two polarities, active, passive, and left foot active and right foot passive. And they create a bow that goes like this and a bow that goes like that. And then there's a bow that goes between your right foot, your right hand, right, and your left foot, if that makes sense. Left hand, left foot. So right hand, right hand, right foot. These are the two sets of polarities, and they create a rotation or flow of Shakti or prana or chi throughout your energy system. So there's this constant flow of energy. Now, this is not really what we want to focus on. However, what I would suggest is the first thing is to learn to relax, to really learn to relax. Now, people often skip this point. What I would suggest is to lie on a fairly hard floor and teach yourself to start at your head. Imagine, what I like to do is I like to imagine this warm golden honey on my head. And this warm golden honey is mounting, and it's like a gloopy warm golden honey, and it's running over my skin, and it's soaking in through my head, and it's soaking through down, and everywhere where this golden warm honey goes, it finds tension and just becomes aware, and it coats that tension with golden warmth of that honey. And imagine this flow of golden warm honey that goes down, and you allow it to go down parts of the head, parts of the neck, the back of the head, and then you allow it to soak in through your eyes, to the muscles behind your eyes, the muscles in your ears, the muscles in the back of your throat, behind your tongue, the muscles behind your jaw, the muscles down your neck, down the back side, until your whole head is just gloopy warm honey feeling. And then you just be aware of that head feeling. And you allow that flow to continue down. The same thing, it's segment by segment, down the shoulders, down the arms, segment by segment, and take your time with it. It doesn't have to be rushed. Until you get to your fingertips, right to your fingertips. And you'll find then that when you start to relax your whole arm, it gets to the point where you're starting to wonder if you can feel your arms or not. There will be a lot of vibrational feelings in your body. It'll feel like tingling, prickling feelings, like a kind of a background, the nervous system becoming super sensitive as the muscles relax intensely. And then you do this down your back, you do it down your front, and you concentrate on this honey warmth permeating your body and going inside your chest, down in your organs, the internal muscles, right down your sexual muscles, and segment by segment, you know, the upper chest, then the midriff, then the belly, then the generative regions and the buttocks, and then down between the knees and the spine, and then down from the knees to the ankles, and then you relax them body part group by body part group. So then you come back to the head and you just be aware of just the head. Just be aware of the tension. Just keep your focus on the tension for like a little while and move to the next one. And your neck, and then your arms, your chest, your back, your midriff, your belly, your hips, your upper legs, your lower legs, your feet, your toes, your fingers. And then you just lie and you become aware of the tips of your fingers, the tips of your toes, and this complete connection between the tips of your toes, the tips of your fingers, and the tip of your head. And you just focus on that feeling. And when you reach the point where you lose body consciousness, in other words, you can't feel your body. You no longer can feel the point of contact between the ground and your body because your body sensations are completely gone. Now you're learning to relax. So there's some training involved. I would recommend doing it every day for a long, long time. That feeling of being bodiless is really important because that's when you start to feel the vibrations and the pure energy. And so by training that relaxation, when you've done that relaxation, then it's the breathing. I would recommend get a rhythm. As a shamanic inspired practitioner, I always use rhythm, the rhythm of your heart, the rhythm of your breath, the rhythm of a mantra. We'll get to mantra as well. And to allow a rhythm to induce. So start with a simple rhythm, breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, breathing out for 4 counts. Then slowly increase the in-breathing, slowly increase the out-breathing, and try and keep them measured. In the beginning, you'll want to keep your holding of your breaths maybe half of the intake and the release. This is a coordinated, what I would call yogic approach as opposed to tantric. I would do both. Sometimes take stock and orchestrate the breathing pattern. Then on another time when you train, just feel the in-breath. Just be aware of how good the in-breath feels. Just let it dwell in your body. Then just feel the out-breath and let it flow out and just enjoy every breath as much as you can. So the variety is the spice of life when it comes to training with the breathing. I usually always started with the yogic breath, which is a if you want to get right down to it, this is where you yoke the breath into the body and you take charge. And so it's the difference between sort of invocation and evocation. You're invoking a pattern of breath. And once you get into a rhythm, then you let that go. And now you just concentrate on the sensation of how good the breath feels. And you allow that beautiful warmth of the breath to flow through your body. And now you just let it all go and you're allowed to take whatever pattern it wants. You've broken your usual daily pattern. You've installed a pattern. And now you're dropping the installed pattern and you're allowing your natural pattern to replace the installed pattern. Very important because this is switching from I am taking charge to it is happening through me. And it's like the breathing of in-breath and out-breath. The active and passive different perspectives of both being amalgamated in a single exercise. This is really optimal. If you've got the time, I would really, if I were you, I would spend 45 minutes a day practicing relaxation and just getting into that breathing rhythm. And when you get into that rhythm, you'll notice the more you spend time in the rhythm, the longer your breaths start to become, the more drawn out they get. And as they become more drawn out, you start to notice something between the breaths. This is quite an important point. Now, after doing this for a long time, you're actually ready to get into a posture. While you're getting into a posture, maintain the relaxation in the body. Exercise your joints a little bit, your ankles, your knees. if you've learned to do Siddhasana, look that up, Siddhasana, that is optimal, but you don't need to do Siddhasana. You could do hero pose if you're feeling martial arts active. That's sitting on your knees. Or you could sit with your legs crossed. Or if you're not comfortable with that, sit in a chair in what they call Egyptian pose, with your feet on the ground, your knees at 90 degrees, your back and your pelvis at 90 degrees, and your hands relaxing on your knees, your thighs and your knees. And allow yourself to just sit and focus on your breath. And as you focus on your breath, you breathe in, you breathe out, and you allow all the tension in your body to just dissipate with every breath, and you fall into the rhythm. And now the focus becomes the key. You can focus on 3 points, 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. I would start with the base of the spine and feel that point in the base of the spine as you're breathing. And just breathe through that point. And become aware of the point in the heart. And you'll notice as you breathe that there's this line connecting the point of the heart and the point of the base. And then you will notice there's a tingling in your throat. This is your psychic faculties wanting to awaken. Don't push them. Allow yourself to feel this connection. It's a line that runs through the body. And allow your intuition to guide you where your concentration wants to settle. Setting is important. The setting of the sun. Set. So Saturn involves contraction. And we're dealing here with contraction. Now, expansiveness of mind is a creative release. But the meditation, the dhyana, is the contraction. The contracting the mind into a very, very small point. And so this is why you have the point that you focus on. And as you focus on this point, be aware of the current as you're breathing. There's this movement. Be continually aware of the breath and continually aware. And the key is not to desire an outcome. The key is not to be lost in the process or the activity. The key is to just do. To just do. So if you were to ask me, what is meditation? Meditation is sitting. It's the best I've ever heard in my life. Because the moment you start to do too much, you lose the point of what dhyana is. Meditation is not something that you can do. It's something that happens. Dhyana is something that happens. You need to create the conditions for this to happen. And when you create the conditions of breath, create the conditions of posture, create the conditions of concentration, create the conditions of rhythm, then the meditation will happen in its own time. It will unfold like a flower. So it's really about being aware of the fact that all we're doing is we're creating conditions and waiting. So okay. I noticed something went about googly giggly gaga. Yeah, okay, it seems like we're good. Let me know if there's any issues with the audio, because my screen just went a bit funny and it told me connection, but it seems like it's back. So waiting has two elements. It has wait, as in patience, waiting, and wait as in mass, waiting. So now we're talking about the compression and the focus on the compression. When we get to a certain point in our dhyana, in our meditation, you will feel a compression in your head. If you overdo the upper chakras, the compression in the head will become painful. This is why this line between these 3 points is so important as a balancing point. The heart acts as a harmonizing balancing point between the Muladhara and the Ajna chakra. And so these centers are connected. And for women, you're more going to be rooted in your sacral plexus. For men, I advise to root yourselves in your Muladhara base of your spine. Women and men's architecture and their bodies are slightly different. And yeah, I mean, shrooms, Howard, do create the conditions for consciousness to expand. Though now what we're talking about is how to create those conditions at will. So with meditation, we can create the conditions of an experience of being on mushrooms through concentration. We can concentrate so intently with such focus. That little bugger's on my couch. Ooh. He's a smelly little bugger. I'm going to have to wash that pillowcase now. Anyway, it is what it is. It's a little doggy that was outside. I don't know what he does, but he gets wee on his fur, and then he goes and lies on my cushion, and look, it just smells funny. He's been smelling really funny, spraying his little boy spray everywhere. So yeah, this shrooms create this condition in the body. The only problem with shrooms is that it also builds toxicity in the liver and in the kidneys. And these alkaloids in the mushrooms have positive effects, but they do have certain toxins that the body has to filter out. So they're not really a long-term solution. They're a great solution for an experiential initiation of sorts, you know, to awaken, like, wow, this is possible. So now when you practice the dhyana, you start to absorb the consciousness to a point where it's not stuck in the body. And that is achieved by total relaxation of the body. When the body becomes totally relaxed, that's when things start to happen. And the focus on the rhythm of the breath keeps you in tune with the weight and patience. If you want to develop patience, focus on rhythm. Let me give you an example. I'm a percussionist and a drummer. And what I've noticed, when you play drum, you can just concentrate on the rhythm, and you can play drum, and hours can pass like you don't even feel the time passing. You go into a trance so easily when you're playing a drum. This is a powerful form of meditation. If you get yourself a little hand drum and you just get into a rhythm with the drum, you will find that you will automatically go into a meditative state, and you will automatically start to deeply relax. So that the rhythm is really like that powerful feature, that function. And then allowing the polarity of the breath to structure this rhythm, so that the rhythm becomes structured by the polarizing effects of the breath. This brings that sense of moving out of the body into a less time-dominated space. And at that point, we're starting to gain lights and see things. We can go into a lucid dream. We can project out of the body. There's all sorts of things that can happen in that liminal space. But that's not what we want to do. The exercise of the dhyana or the meditation is not about going out of the body. It's about learning to concentrate. And that concentration is what the Trisul of Shiva represents. So if you look at Shiva, right, you look at a picture of Shiva, probably a good idea to bring up a picture of Shiva, you know. Let's see if we can see Shiva with his Trisul. There we go. So let's do this. Let's do it, baby. So share a screen. Share a little bit of Shiva. Just a little bit of Shiva. Come on, can you tell me, can I get a little bit of Shiva? Oh yeah, baby, I want to get a little bit of Shiva. So let me add one image to this. Beautiful. You gotta love this this beautiful image. Audio off. There we go. So here we can see Shiva, right? Now we notice when we're looking at Shiva here, we've got the Kundalini energy that is around the throat. And if you look carefully, right, you know, there's a very interesting, something interesting going on around the throat here, right? There's 3 wraps around the throat if you bring this together. And then there's a half a wrap left of the serpent. So there's like a 3.5. The serpent length is 3.5 times around his neck. Just remember that math. The Trisul is also related to the Aum, to the 3 elements of the Aum. And the Trisul are these 3 points that we're talking about in the body, right? So these 3 points that we're talking about in the body that we want to align in the spine represents the Trisul. And it's connected to a staff, which thus shows this union of these 3 points and this Kundalini flow and this Shakti being centered in what the Western occultists call the middle pillar. And this middle pillar energy is really what we're talking about here. Yeah. Namaste, chaos. We look a bit crazy when we see these inner, they aren't always logical. These liminal expressions of our inner consciousness fields are generally quite abstract, lost in abstraction. So this Trisul represents these 3 points, but they're all pointing in one direction. They're all focused in one point. And this is because Shiva has mastered the dhyana. And the dhyana has become so centered that this becomes an expression of all 3 points. Now, this is what we call the Shiva Eye, right? If you look a little closely, and you look here, if you look at Shiva's eyes, for example, you got the same thing being reflected here. You see? You see there, the Shiva Eye? You see those 3 lines over the Shiva Eye there? Those 3 lines represent the same 3 principles. Now, these 3 principles are found in the Aum Tat Sat. They are found in the 3 trigrams of the Kabbalistic tree of life, right? The monad, the duad, and the triad. And that's your first triangle, your first triad. Then your second triad, which is actually your astral triad, even though they mix it up and they call the third triad your astral triad. And then your third triad is your etheric triad, which is relating to the lower centers with Yeshud. And then these three combinations of the 9, the 8, and the 7, of the 6, the 4, and the 5, and of the 1, the 2, and the 3, are what we see when we look at the Saturn square. Now, this Saturn square is really, really important, because it's showing us how to control the 9 elements of the Ennead in the body. And so when we, and you guys have probably seen me talk about this, but now this is like how to use this. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the good stuff, right? How do we actually use this? So you notice here we've got the 1, the 2, and the 3, right? Then we've got the 4, the 5, and the 6, and then we've got the 7, the 8, and the 9. Now this is a Kabbalistic model relating to those 3 elements, right? Relating to those 3 lines on Shiva's head, relating to the 3 blades of the Trisul, relating to these 3 points that I'm talking about in the human body, right? So this is really important. The Muladhara has a band in it, and that band is called a closing between the Svadhisthana and the Muladhara, which can block the energy. You've got another band which can lock the energy in Visuddhi from getting to Ajna chakra. And then you've got another band between the heart chakra and the rhythm chakra, round about the position of the Hrit Padma, which is between the Manipura and the Anahata chakra, the 3rd and the 4th chakra respectively. So these 3 bandhs in yoga are really important. And one learns to focus this. You feel the bandh in your solar plexus activate when you're excited or nervous. You feel the bandh in your Muladhara activate when you're so scared you are literally shitting yourself, right? Or pissing yourself. That's when you lose control of that bandh. You feel the lump in your throat when you're feeling so much emotion from nostalgia. Like you're looking at a sunrise and it's so beautiful and it's reminding you of something you can't put your finger on, and there's such nostalgia and emotion that you got this lump in your throat. That's because your throat is closing up. It can literally take your voice away when you feel such a deep current of emotion. Emotion as opposed to feeling. Emotion is centered here. Feeling is centered in the heart. We feel our emotions in our body through our hearts. But before we feel the emotion in our bodies, it exists in an Akashic space. So we become aware of emotion, the motion of energy. And the motion of energy is where chakra comes from, which is an emanation of the vibrational field, which is Aum. Now, Aum has 3 parts. Once again, we're looking at these 3 elements here, right? We're looking at this aspect of these fundamental 3 triangular forms. And you can see the same thing in the Kabbalistic tree of life. So let's see, Kabbalistic tree of life with 3. Let's hope it will give us a nice, Saturn square. Kabbalistic tree with 3 triads. So hopefully we can see these triads. Why am I getting all this weird nonsense here? This will have to do. It doesn't normally give me so much nonsense. So here we can see the Kabbalistic model, right? And we can see the top triad of the 1, the 2, and the 3. And here we can see the center triad of the 4, the 5, and the 6. And here we can see the next triad of the 7, the 8, and the 9. And this is the enad. And these 3 triads fit together to form the guf, or the Ashia. The Ashia connects the Atzilut first triad to the Briya second triad, related to the Anahata, or the heart, to Tiferet, beauty, and connecting that to the lower triad, which is centered in Yesod. So the lower triad is centered in Yesod, the middle triad is centered in Tiferet, and the higher triad is centered in Keter, with its polarity of the emanations of masculine and feminine potential, the Yang, the Yin, and the Tao. So when we now look at these 3 triads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we can see that the Saturn square is repeating this idea back at us here, right? And there we go. These are the 3 triads as they are built. Now, the reason we are focusing on Saturn is because Saturn relates to compression. Compression is what is a result of contraction. And contraction produces compression. Compression produces weight and mass. Weight and mass produce time. Waiting is transcending time. So the art of meditation is learning to wait. It's about developing patience. It's about learning to concentrate and just wait. So the waiting causes you to become weightless. When you have outweighted all of the weight in your body, you become weightless. And so that weightlessness means that you're now a sensation of floating. Now, when this happens, you might become scared that your body's going to rise up off the ground. It happens. Sometimes it feels like your body's starting to go off the ground. Try not to focus on all of these things. The art is to practice. Start with a rhythm. If you can do half an hour a day, do half an hour a day. If you can do 15 minutes a day, do 15. And add on like 5 minutes every week. And if you do this diligently, so let's say you do it twice a day, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening. And the second week, you do 35 minutes in the morning, 35 minutes in the evening. The fourth week, the next week, you do 40 and 40. The next week, you do 45 and 45. You'll be surprised if you push yourself that that's not too far of a curve. If you find it getting difficult for the increase, drop it to 3. I'd say when you get to an hour, drop it to 3. Then take another 10 weeks to move to the next half-hour slot, 1.5 hours. Then take another, drop it to 2. Take another 15 weeks to move to the 2-hour slot. 2 hours is a really good amount of meditation. If you can find the time to do 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, that's really going to benefit you. So that's what I would recommend you should be aiming at. And it's a slow developmental program, but this is got to do with time and Saturn. Saturn rules meditation. Saturn rules contemplation. Saturn rules stopping and watching inwards. Now, there's a little recipe called the cube of space. Those of you that are Kabbalists might know it. It's where you construct a cube around yourself. So these are other kinds of meditation techniques. They are very complex and very easy, right? As opposed to simple and difficult. But the simple and difficult is the fastest path. The Zazen is the fastest path. The complex and easy is a slower path, and it's not a race. So it's about finding your rhythm. So you construct a cube around yourself. The 7 planetary energies become the 6 directions around you, and Saturn becomes the inward direction because the mass is contracting into you. Pressure, mass. So Saturn becomes that contraction point. And so we make contracts, which is Saturn. And so that contraction is the pressure of time. So to really go into time is to find a way to transcend time. And I think this is really the point of meditation, the dhyana, is to get to that point where we are no longer shackled by time and we're able to observe time flowing through our bodies. And when we observe time flowing through our bodies, we notice that it's energetic in its nature. And we notice that this energetic nature of time that flows through the body is really regulated by the breath and the heart. And that we can change the time flowing through our body. We can change what bandwidth of time we are operating within. We can also change our focus of time. And with training, we can learn to look back in time and see where we were before we were here, even before we were born. We can learn to look forward and see what's coming. So this mastery of time is really what comes from dhyana, meditation, which is all about patience. And patience is pati. Pati means father in Sanskrit, and patri, pateri, patur, different language groups, but it's all the same. It's father. So that is the father mechanism of Saturn, being father time, being the lord of time that you hear Hermes speaking about in the Hermetic documents. The lords of time is really Saturn. And in order to reach that levels of amenti, one has to transcend the pressures of time. So this is like how we're going to gain visionary experiences, but the visionary experiences come at a later stage. And while we are trying to attain visionary experiences, we prevent ourselves from developing the necessary mechanics to facilitate visionary experiences. So this time is really the key. And this time is about wait. So we want to learn to just sit and wait. And there's a flatness that comes. And then when you sit and wait, you notice the breath. Your mind's going to try and wander off. Don't fight it. Just when it wanders off, just refocus on what you were focusing on. So the mind will be like doing this. And you refocus. Now, you can use a symbol to make your simple more complex, to make it a little easier. So if you have a symbol to focus on, it makes it easier. A great symbol to focus on is a triangle, because it represents the three parts of the Trishul. Now, why is it important to develop this? Let's look at this for a moment. What makes this so fundamental? When we enter into a deeper state of consciousness, we are going to meet other beings. Just get ready for that, because that's what's going to happen. There's no bypassing that. There's no escaping that. You will not be alone. And some of the beings that you meet are going to be scary as hell. It's sort of like, because of my martial arts training when I was young, I learned to become proficient as a fighter. So I was able to travel the world for 20 years, and everybody was like, you can't go there, it's dangerous. And I was like laughing at them. You guys don't know where I went when I was a kid, because I know I can handle myself. And because I can handle myself, people don't want to mess with me, right? Because they know that you will defend yourself, and you can defend yourself, and you have the potential, the tools to defend yourself. It's the same on the astral and the psychic planes. By training this meditation, your mind becomes strong. It becomes like a powerful psychic weapon that can be used. If a being comes and wants to confront you, if it wants to do anything, you turn your mind into a laser and you focus on this being. And it's about learning to steady your focus. And just sit. And that builds, the more you steady your focus and you sit, the more it builds resonance. And standing waves build, and the consciousness implodes upon itself because it becomes dense. And it becomes more weighty and weighty and weighty. And the deeper you can focus, the more power you have to command beings that come in contact with you. The more power you have to disrupt beings from your zone. You can change the frequency. If that being's trying to tune into your frequency, you can focus in here to such a point that you feel the vibrations, and you're focusing in such a heavy, intense weight that you wait for those vibrations to change. That being is whirled off. You can literally learn to take that being and move that being with your thoughts, with that focus, and open up a portal and pop that being through the portal and close your portal and seal your space. That being's been pushed somewhere else. In other words, you've changed the frequency of your consciousness and the being's consciousness so that you're no longer in resonance and harmony. And there will be times when there will be beings that will come to you that aren't looking to be a part of a positive experience. So this teaches you psychic self-defense. Also, if you come in contact with another magician that wants to use their psychic force or spells or anything against you, you have nothing to fear, because you can focus your energy into a steady wave of consciousness, tune in to the currents that are moving towards you, and change the tone of those currents by weighting them out. And that weight, compression, changes the tones of frequency, because it's the heartbeat of rhythm produces mass. The heartbeat of rhythm produces weight. When you learn to outweight the rhythm, you outweight time, and you become a master of the polarity, to repolarize your energy field. So this dhyana has a lot of practical, powerful, practical benefits. And your eyes will become quite intense. You might have to learn to change the way you look at people. Because when you meditate hard, you tend to look right through people, and they feel like shivers in their backs and their necks, and they feel like uneasy, and like spiritual psychic things will start happening around them. So you got to learn to change your eyes a little bit, to tone down your eyes so that you don't freak people out by looking too deeply into them. But the more one trains, the more one is able to look deep into someone or something. So if a being comes, you can look into that being, and it can't resist you, because you will outweight it, the compression, and it will either open to you and you will see its true intentions, or it will have to leave. And so there's this practical psychic self-defense where you don't need to learn tricks for psychic self-defense. The same as like you can learn tricks of self-defense, or you can learn to master zazen and your energy and your ki and become a natural defender where you don't have to think about what you do with your defense. It's totally organic and natural and instinctual and empathic. Like you become a reflection of what's happening around you and you reflect it back out. So yeah, that's one element as to why this dhyana is so important. So this Shiva Eye also gives you the potential to be able to retune your chakra, to retune. Now that you've got this focus point and you can wait, you'll notice certain points in the body where there's some kind of different resonances, and you'll be able to shift your perspective towards that. It's almost like you've got this little thing that you can focus here. You focus it down. And you'll notice like, okay, Manipura chakra right now is resonating at that tone, and you look into it and you'll start seeing colors. And so these things, you'll learn to change the colors of your chakra body using this. This is the master gland that retunes and retones all of the chakra. And it does so through the Visuddhi center, which is the psychic ability opening. So your psychic abilities will naturally open. The key is not to lust and hunger for more psychic abilities, but you will become more psychically attuned. It's just what happens when you train in meditation, because you will learn to control the natural psychic abilities that you were born with, and we are all born with a natural ability. This is how this works. It gets covered up from the layers of conditioning. And so this dhyana is the key. Now, while you're practicing the dhyana, it's going to create pressure within your psyche. And that pressure is going to drive you towards becoming a perfectionist. The danger is that you will put high boundaries on other people and high boundaries on yourself and high expectations on yourself and high expectations on others. There's a danger of becoming a superior. You think you're superior. Like I went through a long time thinking, oh, I'm superior. Like, you know, it's a necessary hurdle to climb over when you're starting to like get like a little bit of attainment. And this, what helps with this is maintaining, because we're working with time, we're working with the contraction of Saturn. We're developing the powers of the Trisul, which is the most powerful weapon in the universe. Shiva's Trisul, right? And the three manifestations of the soul, Trisul, soul, sun, prana, life force, the three manifestations. So the A, the U, and the M, within the Aum, the part that's drawn like that is blue. The crescent is yellow and the dot is red. So that's what that is. And this part, which is three crescents, so it's a crescent like that, a bigger crescent, and another crescent like that. So these are three crescents that are supposed to be in alignment with Phi. We're supposed to be in alignment with Phi, these three crescents. And then the fourth crescent is the yellow crescent. And the point is the manifestation. So the yellow crescent represents the energy, right? The red point represents the manifestational. And those three crescents represent the three triads that we were talking about here, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is exactly what we're talking about here, right? The green 1, 2, 3, the blue 4, 5, 6, and the yellow 7, 8, 9. Arbitrary colors assigned by whoever drew this glyph. I didn't draw this particular glyph. just to give you an idea that the colors here are arbitrary. I would say that the 4, 5, 6 represents the go-between point, and I would change the color spectrum to be 1, 2, 3 to be blue, 7, 8, 9 to be red, and 4, 5, 6 to be yellow, if I were to draw these points, where yellow is the energetic spectrum, where 7, 8, 9 is the manifesting time spectrum, and the 1, 2, 3 are the consciousness. So we've got the past, the future, and the present hinging. And then we've got the monad, the duad, and the triad. And then in the energetic spectrum, we've got the receiving energy, the giving energy, and the process between giving and receiving, creating the cycle of the breath. So these three elements then represent all that this Trisul represents, which is also what these three lines on their head represents. And there's a further emanation to the Aum, Tat, and Sat. Now Sat relates to these powerful currents from whence time arises, right? No accident that Sat is deep meditative state, transcendence, Saturn, transcending time, transcending space. Tat represents the structural forms, and the Aum represents the vibrational resonant field through which these structural forms can bring that transcendent quality into compression with time. So the Aum has these three elements within it. The Aum Tat Sat has these three elements within it. And then there is the 3 points of the Idda, the Pingala, and the Sushumna that manifest these 3 principles into the body, creating these 3 triads of the Kabbalistic tree of life. So this is why all of these occult systems are really fundamentally sharing the same thing. This, you could call it the pillar of mercy. You could call this the pillar which you're looking at on your left, the pillar of severity, and you could call the center the pillar of harmony, the pillar of beauty, the pillar of balance. Or you could be looking at a human body in meditation, and this on the right, you would call it the Idda, and that descends into the body. And you could call this the Pingala, as it ascends from the body, the ascending current of Pingala, and the Shashumna, which is the central current. You've seen that image of a meditating body with the chakras, with the serpent winding through the chakras on the right and the left. These 3 principles are really in the embodiment of these 3 principles that are carried on the Trisul and carried here. And so Shiva becomes the embodiment of these principles. He's got his little loti here to carry his water in, right? He's got his little armrest here, which represents the weight and the pressure of time being bound. And he's allowing his arm to rest. He's allowing himself to just find rest. So meditation represents rest, fixed attention, no movement. The movement of the dynamic concentration on the breath is merely so that you can strengthen the fixed point. The fixed point is really the point of concentration. The awareness is just using the breath to fill the mind with substance so that the mind doesn't wander. So the breath and the rhythm of the breath is to fix the mind to the point until the body consciousness fades away and one becomes just a point. And in this point, one starts to hear silence. So when we're starting to listen to silence, we're going into a very deep and very profound form of dhyana or meditation. This is when you listen to the sound of silence and you feel that silence is the substance. And the more you listen to the silence, you start noticing that the silence is actually made out of sound. And as you listen to the sound that silence is made out of, you notice it's quite a busy quite a busy spectrum of sound, the silence. And that the sound of silence has got mass. And that the pressure of time is a product of the sound of silence. It's what we start to realize as we listen to silence deeply. We start noticing that this is the supreme mantra. The supreme mantra is the mantra of silence, which is the mantra of the Shastra, transcending Om, transcending time, space, the whole universe, life and death. But because we are focusing on silence, we are rooted within Visuddhi Chakra. So this is where all the psychic abilities become awakened in the spirit of silence. Listening to the silence will awaken Visuddhi Chakra to Akasha. And the Akasha will show you your past lives and things you need to know about your future and where you are now and why you are here. Now, all of these things are all good and well. And this training is lovely, but now the training needs a root. And the root of the training has got to be shadow work, looking at one's shadow. There's got to be analysis. There's got to be honesty. There's got to be focus. There's got to be, the harder we put pressure on ourselves to become cool, calm, collected, focused, bearing the mass, bearing the weight, learning to outweight time. I want you to contemplate that as a cone, learning to outweight time. If you could keep that in your consciousness, that's a cone meditation. So there's many ways to focus this, that the focus needs to be. So as you start training and you get better at your training, you'll start trying different techniques. You'll take the idea of outweighting time and keep it in your mind. And just be aware of outweighting time. And that will take you to this point of fixed concentration. So there are many doorways to reaching that fixed point of concentration. Koan meditations are used by many sort of Buddhist practitioners, and they don't have a rational answer, like learning to outweight time. It doesn't make any sense, but there's a lot in it. And the way that we bring all of this into a sensible union so that we can make something out of it is through what Steiner and many Rosicrucians and in the Vedic path is called, and basically all Western schools of occultism, I was taught this when I was 12, like do this every day, and I did it religiously, is called the daily review. Now that daily review is your bread and butter of keeping it real. If you skip the daily review, you might get lofty ideas of self-importance. The daily review shows you what you've got to learn, like in the real world. Because the daily review is basically you sit down and you go back in time. And as you go back in time, you go back through your day and you recognize everything that happened, focusing on the emotional points, stimulation. And what happened to me today? You go back step by step to the point that you woke up in the morning and got out of bed. And it's a single linear curved motion through time of I'm about to go to sleep, and in the process of going through it, you're working out a lot, but you're not actually calculating anything with your mind. You're just observing this. So what I would do is I would go back in time, do the meditation, and after I've done it, if there's any important things you want to write down in your diary, you write them down now. So without getting carried away with it, like I felt annoyed at that with this person said that. I felt this, I've still felt this strong emotion that seems to have like been, and you write it down in your book. Once you've written it, you close the book, you put it away, you're done with it now. You don't want to figure it out. You do not want to heal yourself. You do not want to cure yourself. You do not want to fix yourself. You just want to become aware of what's vexing you. That's the key. Allow yourself to become aware and drop that penny into the well of the unconscious and allow the unconscious to work. You go to sleep, you wake up in the morning, you practice your dhyana, you practice your morning After your dhyana, you write down in your diary any experiences you have, any emotions, any residues. Close the book. So your diary becomes your... In magical work, the diary is your weapon of your heart. You and your son are one. Big love, man. Yeah, man. Yeah. Namaste to everybody that's been joining. So this idea of the diary, it's the weapon of Tiparit, along with the layman. The layman is a symbol that you wear over your heart. I like to wear mala. You could wear whatever you want to wear, something that's important to you. It could be a crystal. It could be a triangle. It could be a religious symbol. It could be a cross. Something that roots you. The cross represents the cross of time, of Saturn, right? This is why Christians wear a cross on there. They want to be aware of the time and the weight and the mass and the weighting and the cross of time. The triangle represents these three different aspects of the Trisul as three triangles come together to form the enad. And the enneagram is really what's being reflected by the Trisul. But the three triangular forms of the enneagram, which become a triangle in themselves. And that triangle that it becomes is none other than 1, 2, 3, which is 6 numerologically. 7, 8, 9, which is 24, which is 6, right? And 4, 5, 6, which is 15, which is 6. Are you seeing where this is going? This is Saturn's potential, the power that locks you into the world. We are locked into the world by these three triangles that represent 666. And so we are stuck in matter. And the way to transcend matter is to gain control over these three elements within our body, these three aspects. And that way we gain continuity in the present between the past and the future. And the flow of time has a steady rhythmic pulse that we can track, and we can then learn to tune into the vibrational field and get intuition and instincts about certain things. It won't necessarily change your decisions. There have been many times in my life where I get an intuitive current of something that's like going to be challenging, but sometimes you invite it because you realize there's a karmic thing here. You realize this intuition, you realize you're scared or something. You go, oh, I'm scared. You will want to move towards fear. You'll maybe put yourself in dangerous situations in order to accelerate your spiritual growth. So dhyana carries its own price tag. And the price tag is that it will want you to develop fast. And that will sometimes mean that you'll put yourself into situations where you can really get a handle on your karmic currents that you're carrying in your body and your consciousness in order to allow that serpent to work it out of the system so that you can gain a deeper sense of focus and self continuity, that center within the self. So these three elements are really the key to the meditative potential. And these three elements are also bound within the in-breath, bringing in the resting, holding, allowing the movement, releasing. So there's two polarities to consider here. Depends which side we're looking from. From one side, the in-breath represents bringing in life. From another side, the out-breath represents releasing life. The ancient Egyptians considered water to be the direction of the west, which is the releasing of life. But the reason why they considered water to be the releasing of life was because the macrocosmic alignment with water is the release of life. But on the microcosmic element. It's inverted to this. Water brings the life into our body. It brings the nutrition into our body. When something passes away, the world sucks the fluids out of it. Right? If a creature falls on the forest floor, the macrocosm will suck all the fluids out of it. The macrocosm sucks life out of things with water. And the macrocosm puts life into things with the fire of the sun. That heat, putting the life in. But on the personal level, when you breathe in, you bring in nutrition. You bring in. Water then brings the nutrition into your body. When you breathe out, you release the steam. You release the fire. So there's this balanced polarity here, where the out-breath, which I, on a personal level, relate to fire, but on a macrocosmic level, relate to water. And this might seem confusing, but I would say focus on the microcosm for now, because this is a more practical way to generate life force, chi, in the body. And to be aware that the in-breath represents the water. So now we get to an important point of dhyana. In a Vedic cosmological setting, Hansa or Hamsa is considered to be related to the swan. And the swan moves across water without effort, so it seems. Those little feet are working hard underneath the currents, but on the top it's total grace. And so this is a symbol used in martial arts in order to teach you that your feet do the work, right? Not your arms. Striking, you strike with your legs. When you throw a punch, you strike with your legs. If you're not doing it that way, you're missing out half of the mechanic potential and power of the body. And channeling the jing to stimulate, and the chi to move the jing so that you've got that physical density of power flowing through your punch or your strikes, which is essentially a manifestation of your ki or your chi energy. So that's how you learn to focus it, through your legs and your feet, and your hips, and then tantin, and that hara point of storage releases some of that essence when you strike through the breath. But on a subjective, psychic level, this notion of the Hansa is an audio effect of breath. And there is this unstruck sound of the Anahata chakra, of the hearts. Anahata is the heart chakra. And we're talking about unstruck sound. You might have read about it in Vedic cosmological books. But what we're talking about when we talk about unstruck sound is, what I was talking about is listening to the silence. And then through the silence, noticing how our breath changes the tones of the silent music that hides in silence. And we start to first notice that bringing in our breath is like a hum sound or hum sound. And releasing the breath is like a sa sound. So now we are looking at, once again, these three elements, right? We're looking at sa and hum. So you'll often see this mantra sohum being spoken of in Vedic. It's actually hum sa, but when you practice a mantra over and over again, it inverts. This is something the more you practice with japa, if you start with Om Namah Shivaya, it will end up Shivaya Namah Om. It will somehow invert itself, and you'll be hearing it going in a different direction. It's very weird. It's a part of consciousness. It's what happens when you practice and you get into a deep rhythm of chanting. If you're saying Om Shanti, you will end up saying Shanti Om. That's just how the consciousness works. It inverts. So, like when you get into a trance, that will just, you'll just get used to it. That will just be how it will work. And so this Hansa, the hum is literally the sound that the breath makes entering the lungs, hum. And the sa. So we're dealing with the letter m and the letter s. Now when we look at this tree of life, again, in the Kabbalah we've got the 3 mother letters, right? We've got the Aleph, which represents the life force and the prana. And then we've got the Mem, which represents the vibration, the resonance. And then we've got the Shin, which represents the stimulation. So the stimulation, which is provided by the fire, is balanced by the water through the air. I'm talking, my voice dry. And this notion of these 3 elements, once again, the Ida, the Pingala, the Shashumna, are represented here. The Aleph, being the life force, represents the balance. The air element is the balance between fire and water. This is why in Taoist systems, they speak of the air element as being metal and wood. Because the air has got 2 qualities. The air receives from the fire and gives to the water. Right? So, the air is receiving receptively wood from the water element. Right? Because the water goes into the wood. Just go figure. Water and wood. Xylem. Xylophlum, turgidity, pressure. And the water element, right, causes changes and density to occur, the formation of rocks. And so all the elements in the water, for example in the sea, will start to settle and become compressed into rocks. And as that rocks expands, there'll be like little dots of metal in there that can at a later stage be refined from those rocks, right? And turned into metal. So the metal is the what gives to the water, as the wood is what receives from the fire. Remember, macrocosmic is inversion to microcosmic, but we won't overcomplicate this. So when we look at how these principles work, we can see that the air element in the Taoist system is wood and metal, and this stands between fire and water. And the fire is a destructive, powerful element that burns the life out of us. And the water is that spiritual element that brings the life into us. So they call the water element the Shen. They call the fire element the Jing. And the Qi is that interacting between the Shen and the Jing. And so the Jing expresses itself to bring new life. The water maintains building this life so that this life can create new life. It's got to do with sexual mysteries within the Jing as a reflection of the Qi, as a reflection of the Shen. Or we could speak about the causal field being a reflection of the astral, being a reflection through the etheric into the physical body. And obviously this is the Ida manifestational pole of form. In the same way, that the pillar of form is the pillar of severity, in the same way that the pillar of force is the pillar of love, of mercy. So mercy is the pillar of force that becomes form, and severity is the pillar of form that becomes force. You see this? They both have both qualities in them. It depends whether you're looking up or you're looking down the tree as to which element you're going to relate to which, but they have this continuity of flow, because once again, the left hand receives, the left foot gives, the right foot receives, the right hand gives. So when we're looking at these two pillars, depends on whether we're counting our hands or our feet, but either one is relevant, even though the right hand and the right foot makes a complete system. Hence, you can get the vertical flow, that polarity necessary to create a linear flow between the top and the bottom, and this inversion in order to produce a balance and a harmony of energy. So, getting back to the dhyana and the meditation, it's very important for us to bear all of this in mind as to why waiting is the most important point, and why the breath is so important. Because the breath carries the m of maim, water, into the body, and the shin, sa, of fire, out of the body. In Taoist alchemy, they meditate on listening to the sound of the fire element as a hissing sound, like the seraphim, right? Like the serpents, the fiery serpents, the fiery salamanders. And they listen to them as the mother coming into the body, the water, mata, mama. And so we've got this polarity of water and fire being expressed by the breath. So there's a mystical idea of why hum sa is so important. So to listen to the sound of the breath coming in and being aware that there's a vibrating into the body, form is reflected in the waters. And the sa is releasing the energy. So the release of the energy through the sa and the bringing in of the form through the water produces the form and the force together. So there's this powerful combination of force and form. Now, how we apply meditation is to just understand why it's so important for these three things to be done as they relate to the three aspects of Shiva. And the three aspects of Shiva then relate to these three things, right? To waiting, yeah, to concentrating, and waiting becomes like the two most easy and substantial things to hold on to. And through the concentration and the waiting, we find that there's a release. And so these three elements, concentrating, waiting, and release, becomes the fundamental point. So we want to root our consciousness in our breath, because the breath can literally teach us all the secrets of the universe, can reveal everything that there is to be revealed, can elicit from us the greatest wisdom, the greatest insight. And we want to learn to relax our bodies. We want to learn to generate rhythm with the breath. And we want to learn to concentrate, to focus. So the rhythm of the breath, the concentration of the focus, and the relaxation of the body. The relaxation of the body drops the physical weight off of the body. The concentration moves the focus inward. And the rhythm of the breath gives it a sense of continuity. And so these three elements become the elements of patience, the triangle of the father, that leads to the mother. And when that triangle is inverted, it becomes a yoni. See? So we move in to the presence of the divine feminine through the actions of the masculine. But bringing the masculine poles into alignment aligns us with the potential of the feminine. And that's when we start to become poised, aware, waiting, and observing. So these are the qualities that we're really working with. Now, one other thing I would say when it comes to this, probably the easiest form of meditation to start with is sound. So you want to learn to push yourself, but you also want to know what your limits are. These abstract meditation things that have been shared here are slightly more advanced. If you're more of a beginner, for those that will be coming and listening to this later on, then I would say, remember what I said about the timing, increasing the timing. Also, to start off with, you can use sound. Now, there are a lot of different mantra that you can use. There are a lot of different sound tones. The Aum represents 3 tones. Ah in the back of the head, ooh, the rising current to the Shastra chakra, the frontwards moving, resonating against the bone, stimulating the pineal gland, stimulating the anterior and posterior pituitary gland, and stimulating the pineal and pituitary together simultaneously to create that resonant feeling of a serpent. It starts in the back of the head. And it moves over the head. And you feel this current starting to move over the head with every chant. And this current brings this rotational axis of energy, which in Taoist systems is called the microcosmic orbit. And it stimulates this rising of the current up the back and the pushing down of the current. This is why the tongue during meditation wants to be against the palate, because this current is going to be pushed down the front. And it's going to create this wheel of energy that you're in. And the same thing is going to be happening where there's going to be a wheel getting created, moving down the left and moving up the right part of your spine, till it's as if you're in 2 wheels of energy. And these 2 wheels of energy, because of the directions that they're moving in, they create a spiral vortex moving up the body as well. That's quite important to recognize. So, for example, you got this current moving up the right, and you've got a current moving down the front. So down the front causes a slowing down on this side, and a rising up the back speeds up the back side of the left, which causes the energy to want to rise from the left towards the right. And you'll find that this becomes like a spiral that wraps your body up. So you'll find as you meditate, you'll find these different currents flowing through the body if when your nadis open and you're in a deep state of breathing rhythm. And when we start to focus on the heart, we will feel the vibrations and the sensations of energy on the body. So it's important to work with all 3 of these nadis, to work with the concentration in the root spine, to work with the concentration in the heart, and to work with the concentration in the 3 elements of the Trisul, so that we can learn energy, mental, and physical. Physical form, pure energy, and mental conceptual potential. And these three potentials, as we train them, will become stronger. Each one will add to it, will become more powerfully stimulated so that they can work as one. And so this is where sound becomes a key. So Aum is a very powerful mantra to chant. It's the mantra of Shiva. Aum. You'll find it resonating in your head. If you do it a lot, you're going to spin out. So this is why there is an Aum Namah Shivaya. So the Aum stimulates. The Na stimulates the root chakra. The Ma stimulates the Svadhisthana, sacral plexus chakra. Shi stimulates the Manipura, the fire center chakra. Va stimulates the Anahata, the heart chakra. Va in Hebrew, Vau is the nail that connects things. The heart chakra connects the heavens to the earth. Va. Iya represents Akasha. Iya represents that resonant vibrational field. So these 6 syllables will actually give you control over the chakras. To be aware of that is to realize that chanting Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, chanting these mantra will create these currents. Now, from a shamanic perspective, there's 2 different ways to chant. There's tonal chanting and there's rhythmic chanting. They're different. The tonal chanting is when you focus on the tones and you go, you'll feel that these tones will really stimulate your chakras in a big way. You'll feel them like run through your spine and run through the different points in your body and stimulate the chakras. But the mantra used as a rhythmic chant will put you into a trance. So the shamanic path is using the rhythmic form of chanting, which is Om Namah. You're focusing on the rhythm. You're either focusing on the rhythm, which is the relationship between the different syllables, or you're focusing on the syllable itself. Those are the 2 different ways in which you can manipulate sound. When you're focusing on the syllable itself, the actual syllable itself, you are really centering into that particular chakra. When you're focusing on the rhythm between it, you're looking at the relationships between the chakras in order to understand how they work as a whole, the consciousness. So dhyana, in its most productive form in modern times, I would say, rhythmic chanting seems to be easier. Now, this is my experience. I could be wrong. It might not be the same for everybody. But I do think that it's a very easy way to fall into a trance. And get yourself a drum. Get yourself a drum and work with the rhythmic chant with a drum. Just a little tap. It can be a small little drum. It doesn't have to be a big drum. It doesn't have to be a fancy drum. The drum itself doesn't matter. It's the rhythm. And get into a rhythm. Chant with the rhythm. Play the drum with a simple rhythm for a while and then chant with that rhythm. And allow your body to just, whatever rhythm it feels like doing, just let it do it. And just get into that rhythm and allow your chanting. And as you chant, the rhythm will change. And the more you chant, the rhythm will change. And you won't need a drum anymore. You can go into a deep meditation and feel the heart. And allow the heart rhythm to be your drum. And then to chant in cycles with that heart rhythm, which is related to your breath. And so you can go into deep trance very easily with rhythm. And that trance is really like the bread and butter of the shaman. A shamanic trance is all about rhythm. Now, when you are focusing on the tonality, instead of focusing on the vibration, you are focusing on the Visuddhi chakra. You're now opening the psychic potentials, the psychic abilities. But that comes with consequences. The rhythm is a more steady, grounded approach to approaching the spiritual. Working with that tonal, I think in ancient times, we were more close to our golden age potential. We in this Kali Yuga are very earthly and very enticed by sex and, substances and food and entertainment and body sensations and body comforts, right? And so because we have such a strong earthly pull, to go straight into Visuddhi chakra and to try focus that serpent too fast creates a lot of potential fire energy that can burn you out. And so for this purpose, the rhythmic form of chanting has always been used by the shaman. The chant is about the rhythm, not about the chant. And that rhythm puts you into a natural trance where you naturally evoke, rather than invoking the potentials of the Visuddhi chakra and going into a completely whoosh out of your consciousness, powerful psychic experience. It becomes a more natural, heartfelt experience because it's grounded in rhythm. And rhythm is Saturn, and Saturn is pressure, and pressure is time, and time is weight, and waiting is patience. So the rhythm produces patience. The patience produces the will and the strength of the Father. Open your Visuddhi chakra in too much of a hurry and gain these powerful psychic impressions, and then face these beings on the other plane that you're not ready to face, and there could be consequences. Open them in the right time, in the right way, developing the momentum of rhythm, and when you get to face these beings, they will be with you. You won't be with them. You will not feel under their direction, and you will know that they are under your direction. Because that rhythm can retune the whole vibrational field. And these beings are vibrational field emanations. So you change the vibrational field, you change that being. You can change that being's frequency. You can move that being away. You can put that being where you want that being to be. Where do you think the genie in the bottle comes from? This is when the jinn would come and the shaman would use rhythm to retune the jinn and put them into a stasis field and force them into an object and make them work for them. This is a big part of the golem construction of the Kabbalists. Learning to construct this golem as a body for a jinn that you will force into that golem. It wants to come, okay, I'll take charge of your vibrational field and do with you what I want, because rhythm gives you that power. It's mass, it's density, it's the focus of the vibrational body. So for this purpose, gaining that strength of rhythm gives you the appreciation of time on a broader scale. So that's why I would say chanting rhythmically is very powerful. Aum Ganapataye Namaha. Ganesha rules the 5 gunas, is a powerful cleansing pre-mantra mantra. The Aum Namah Shivaya mantra is a very powerful mantra. Don't overdo it. The Aum Shanti. Now that's a very powerful. Shan means Saturn. Shani, Shan. Shan, T. T is Saturn's T, the cross of time. Aum of the 3 elements of the 3 structured potentials of creation brought together in Saturn's pressure, which produces rest. That rest can be experienced as peace. That peace is Shanti, is that peace. And it rests in that T point of the Tau cross of Tav, which represents Saturn, an inward direction. So Om Shanti. So if you use the Om Namah Shivaya mantra a lot, you will start to spin out. You don't want to do that too much. You want to do that a bit, and then you want to Om Shanti. Bring that energy back down and root it in Saturn. Root it, Shanti. Very, very important to understand what the Shanti represents. It represents Saturn being perfected. And then there are other mantras too. The Ganesha mantra is a very powerful opening mantra for the 5 gunas to focus the 5 aspects. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And the 5 aspects split to form the 10, right? And the 10 represents Aries, Taurus, Gemini, right? Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And the sun, Leo, and the moon, Cancer. And so the sun and the moon lock together to produce that wheel, the Ouroboros, so that the 12 constellations of the Mazloth, or the wheel, can come into. So this is to align the macrocosm with the microcosm. That's what this posture is all about, prayer posture. Now, when we are focusing with dhyana, we will often use a mudra. This is a powerful mudra, right? Because these 2 potentials, you could look at it from many, many different ways. You could look at this from a Kabbalistic perspective of realizing that Kether is aligned with Chokmah and that Bina is aligned with Pachat or Jebura. So these potentials are aligning the 3 with the 5 and the 1 with the 2. And these then create 1 and 1, the sacred number 11, Shiv Shakti. So this puts you into that perspective. This is the expressive finger of control, right? Your index fingers are very important for focusing. And your thumb is very important for being a something to rest against. And represents like Venus's extension, where Jupiter and Venus become aligned. And so the beauty that is reflected in Venus can be expressed by the expansion of Jupiter, which is being bound within Venus, the gateway to the mysteries, so that the expansion of Jupiter doesn't get the mind busy. So the mind becomes more at rest. And by closing the circuit between Chokmah and Chesed, Chokmah and Kether, which Kether Chokmah, you align your Ida, right? And Bina and Jebura or Pachat, you're aligning your Pingala. So your Pingala and your Ida are being aligned through this energetic flow by these, which is creating that vortex of energy that we were speaking about running through the body. And these 2 vortexes will produce the 3rd vortex, which is that arising of the Kundalini potential because of the interplay of the masculine and feminine impulses from each of the channels up and down the tree, or the tree of the spine, the tree of life. So this posture has its power. This posture has its power. This posture has its power. Then often dhyana mudra represents this, right? So aligning the Jupiter pointing upwards and aligning the Venus pointing downwards also produces a yoni in your hand. And the yoni over the heart produces a feminine current within the heart to become receptive. And that receptivity prevents the activity of thinking. So this is another mudra which is often used for dhyana. But this is more common, but you don't need to. You can just relax your hands there. The other one is to put the right hand inside the left hand like a cup. You see this in the Buddhist bhavana. Bhavana is anapanasana, is in-breath, out-breath. It's the Buddhist technique from the Theravadan systems, anapanasana, which is really in-breath, out-breath, which is really what we were talking about, Ham Sa, as the Taoist alchemical system, as the Vedic system, in-breath, out-breath. So yeah, focusing on these different points are really, really important. And I would say one more thing. When you get toward the end of your meditation practice, I would start to bring your energy down and start to focus it and concentrate it downwards towards your base of your spine. Bring it in to your body. Root yourself in your body. Really root yourself in your body. Now, frankincense looks like this. Frankincense. I would recommend buying yourself. These are like simple charcoals that you can buy, and they are used for hookah pipes. People who smoke hookah pipes, they burn for about almost an hour. You just put a layer of sand to begin with, and then you get out the sand when you've collected ash, and you build a layer of ash in like a little, get a metal container, and you can put that on a side plate, and then you put your charcoal, you light it, a pair of pliers, tongs or something, and you break these little crystals up and you pile them on, and you allow the space to be permeated. Frankincense, olibanum, what is the name of frankincense? Boswellia. The Boswellia frankincense, you can find it on Amazon and buy it. I would get some. I would get myrrh as well. I would get copal, if copal is also readily available. These have all got very similar compounds in them that actually stimulate the heart, stimulate the breath, have an effect on the brain. So burning these resins will help. Myrrh tones frankincense beautifully. But to start with, frankincense is highly energetic stimulator. Myrrh brings the compression of Saturn. The frankincense brings that powerful solar radiance of energy into the body. Different kinds of floral scents. Jasmine will bring a sense of sensuousness, becoming aware of the senses. A rose will bring a sense of joy and harmony. So you can get rose petals as well. But I personally think that frankincense is probably, there's a reason why the word incense is named out of frankincense, where the word incense comes from. Because, it was prized as it is prized today in every part of the world. And copal is it's like a kind of a frankincense, by the way. Might be different, but it's a kind. There's lots of differences. There's Boswellia certeri, there's Boswellia tarifura, there's Boswellia serrata from India, there's Boswellia. There's different ones. The ones from Iman is very expensive. I would say the Ethiopian incense is all right, pretty good. The Somalian incense is really good and reasonably priced. So buy it by the pound. You can order it from Amazon anywhere in the world, and you get the best rates from Amazon.com. Even if you're in the UK, buy it from Amazon.com. If you want to find good source, you can send me a message in Telegram, and I'll send you links to like where I'm buying mine, because I keep my finger on the pulse. I'm always stocked up with, I always have a couple of kilos of the stuff lying around. I don't like to run out. And you can burn it often. And the more you breathe it in, the better. You can also crush it up and ingest it, by the way. It's very good for your system. So I would say, like, stimulate your sense of smell, because your sense of smell is your Muladhara chakra, and that brings you into your root chakra. So by burning these resins and becoming aware of the smell, it keeps you rooted to the root chakra so you don't go too far off. This is why incense is important. This is that axis that we're talking about, keeping it rooted. Sense of smell is related to your Muladhara chakra. The sense of sound, the sense of touch and feeling to your heart, the sense of sight to your solar plexus, your Manipura, and the sense of taste to the belly, to the sacral plexus, and the sense of thinking, thought, is associated here with the upper chakras. So to understand these different senses, just to start to think of thought as a sense. When you start thinking of thought as a sense, you no longer believe that you're driving the thoughts. You notice that you're just becoming aware of thoughts in the same way that you're becoming aware of sounds, the same way that you're becoming aware of sensations. And it's a good way to think of thoughts for practical meditation purposes, because that way you drop the delusion or the illusion that I am thinking and start becoming aware that thoughts are flowing through me. I'm hearing, actually sounds are flowing through my awareness. The sounds are already there. I'm feeling, actually the sensations are flowing through my body, but the sensations are already there. The tastes I'm tasting, actually the tastes are flowing through my body because of stuff that's in my mouth that I can taste. The smell, I'm not smelling. The smell is flowing through my body because of what is present in the air that's touching the nerves. So these different perspectives are going to help to keep a balance when it comes to thinking, so that the thinking principle doesn't take over, because we remind ourselves all the time throughout the day. And the last thing I will leave with you, is meditation with the open eyes and the closed eyes. Now, this is a very simple technique, and it's a very powerful opener for training for meditative exercises, and it's very powerful. So you're breathing in, you're resting, you're breathing out. Now you've relaxed, you've brought your body into a rhythm, the rhythm of the breath. And now, when you're breathing in, you're breathing the world in. So your eyes open. And you just see what's in front of you, and you're breathing in the world. And when you get to completing the in-breath, your eyes start to close while your breath settles. Then you're breathing out and your eyes are closed. You're breathing away from the world. Then, while you're holding your breath, your eyes slowly start to open, to the point where they're open and you're breathing in the world. So this is called the pendulum breath. It's a Rosicrucian technique, Western occultist technique, but it teaches you to maintain focus, whether the eyes are open, whether the eyes are closed. The importance of this exercise is so that when you leave your meditation mat and you go into your daily life, you can carry that meditation with you even when your eyes are open, because you're breathing the world in. And this becomes a very powerful training technique for maintaining meditative state of awareness even when you're not practicing meditation. And I think that's pendulum breath is something that everybody should work with to some degree. Learning to focus the intention out of the body and inwards, and realize there's this interplay of giving and receiving as a constant rotational flow of energy between the macrocosm and the microcosm. So we've gone to the 2 hours and 5 minute mark. I was going to do a Q&A. I got carried away. From the Q&A. So let me know if you guys have got any particular questions. Om Namah Shivaya. If there's any other questions you guys have, which I'm guessing that the crowd that's here at the moment, you probably don't have too many, but anything that I wasn't clear on, let me know. It's only a pleasure. Only a pleasure. But yeah, these are like little things to add. Oh gosh, this is so much. I didn't even speak about paradigms. Paradigm shifts, using the different senses as triggers. This is when you want to really extend your meditation. Maybe this will be part 2. Part 2, I will really break into the paradigm shifting techniques, where you can lengthen your meditation from half an hour to an hour to 2 hours easily, because there's a mental fatigue that comes with concentration. So to keep changing up the concentration is healthy, but it needs to be rhythmic and it needs to happen strategically so that you don't have to think about it, so that it's a pattern. And then you just follow the rhythmic patterns and you create different rhythmic patterns that you flow through. And that flowing through these rhythmic patterns, as long as you're maintaining concentration, rest, waiting, patience, then everything else sort of flows into place. Howard, Chaos, Artemis, Vincent, Mexico, Corby, Howard, Esme, I don't know if you might have left. Mikey, Mikey, namaste. Turjerko, and I'm sure as I go back, there's, of course, Chaos. Yeah, man, sending you all so much love, big blessings, peace, honor, and respect. Systematic Zoo, lovely. Just finished building the boys' bed. Woohoo! Boys' bed, that's cool. Next age group, hey? Now you're gonna have your hands full, brother. You got 2 of them. Good luck, man. You can better start nailing down the stuff in your home, bro. You get them nailed down. I got one boy, it's like a crowd, man. So yeah, man, sending you all big love, big blessings. I hope you guys got what you came for. So much love to all of you. You see, it's like this, Kubi. There comes a point where there's an in-breath and an out-breath. There's like Hansa is the key to all things. And when you've breathed in, you need to breathe out. So we spend our chunk of our life breathing in. Yeah? Yeah. So you take a lot with your in-breath. You receive a lot. But then you need to give that back out again in order to be able to receive again. There's this fundamental relationship between give and take. And there comes a point where you feel like you've learned all there is, but you actually haven't. You've just reached like the end of your bubble, and in order for you to make your bubble turn you back into a beginner again, which is what you need to become a beginner. For those of you that watch The Journey of the Fool, go and check this out, because this is really what we're talking about, yeah? that octave shift back to becoming the beginner again is really the key to like a car changing gears. It's like you've gotten where you can go in first gear, and you've now like fully like amped up first gear. You now need to shift to second gear, which means you need to drop the pressure of breathing in and allow your power to leave your vehicle, and then shift into the gears, and then slowly start again to build. And so yeah, basically that's what it comes down to. And there's something quite joyful in being able to share something that you've got, that like got given to you. Like if someone gives you food, like if the universe gives you food and you can prepare that food to share that food with other people, there's a certain amount of joy that comes to like sharing food with people and giving people food, or sharing like whatever. So there's this element of unifying through other people ourselves, while in the process giving something to other people. And in that act of giving, you're receiving. So the act of giving becomes a receptive thing, because we have to then become very receptive to our own, to what we're putting out there. And so we're refining our own inner receptivity to what we're putting out. And that actually starts the journey back inward again. That's the easiest way that I can sort of think about it and relate it. Yeah, chaos, tracking everything in the mind. Phew. The more I learn, the less I know. The more I learn, the less I know. Or so it seems. Isn't it funny how the universe has this way of inverting everything for us? But big love to all of you. When you've given a good giving, how do you know when you're given a good giving? Well, I think it's in the taste. It's the taste of it. When you ring that bell, the bell of the belly of the Svadhisthana chakra that maintains the element of taste, does it leave a pleasant taste in the mouths of those that receive the offering? And the taste that's received in the mouths of those that receive the offering is the feedback loop. I don't know if it went well or not. It feels good. It tastes good. And I think the key is not to rate. Because the word rate is related to rhythm, the rate of movement, right? So if you're drumming, here's an example. And I'm a percussionist, right? So it's like probably one of my most core skills is rhythm and percussion. And so I used to play, like, should I call it professional? I don't know. I was never really wanting money, but like I used to get some money from it. I used to coordinate the top drummers in the UK to play with me in all the big festivals around the UK when I was there. And wherever I was when I played drums, like it drew a crowd. And the reason for that was not because I was rating the drums as good or bad. I didn't care about whether the drums were good or bad. I was more interested in getting into a rhythm. And for me, the process of getting into a rhythm was what produced what other people experienced as music. But for me, it's just about getting into that rhythm and enjoying that rhythm. And then whatever comes out, other people can enjoy. And I think that it's the same when we get into a flow and our hearts open and the information that's coming through is not linear, conceptualized thoughts. Nothing that I have said here was planned. I had no idea where I was going to start with this conversation. I didn't stop to think about it for a moment. I just came here with the intention of sharing some of the experience that I have had from meditation, which is fairly considerable. Although I have met people that have next leveled it. So like whatever we think is considerable, there is next level, like over and above that, times 2, times 3, times 4, whatever. There are some people that have met little old men that have spent 7 decades in deep meditation. It takes me 2 lives to reach that. So my point is that in that rhythmic release of experience, we gain a feeling. And the feeling is not something that we can rate, because you're either in the rhythm or you're rating the rhythm. Because the rhythm is the rate. You're either experiencing the rate and then you can't see it from the outside because you're in it. Or you're at the outside looking in at the rhythm and you see the rate and you can rate it. So with meditation, the key is never to try and rate your meditation, because the rating of the meditation prevents the experience of the rhythm. And from my experience, the experience of the rhythm is really what it's all about. So the rating is second rate, and the rhythm is what I would rate. I would rate the rhythm as being worth rating. So if we're enjoying the rhythm, that's the barometer. You don't play a drum to see what other people thought of the drumming. You play a drum to feel the rhythm. And the more you feel the rhythm, that's the barometer by which to, if you want to rate the drumming experience, from my perspective. And that's, as like, I spent a lot of time in percussional work, playing drum for long hours and hours and hours, and just meditating on the sound and the rhythm, and get lost in the rhythm of rhythm, and just swim in the rhythm and 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 swim in the rhythm until time decompresses and the body is lost and you're not even in your body anymore and you're somewhere else and you're in another time, right? So that deep entry into the Akash is from the rhythm. And so when we go into the rhythm, we allow that higher self to sort of operate through us. Yeah, exactly, Howard. It's not something you can control. It's something that just happens. And so it's quite humbling in that sense. Yes, of course I do. I don't play my djembes as much as I used to. I mean, I play I've got my shaman drums, which I play more often, just because I can play them indoors and they're not like boom, 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 boom. When I play my djembes, like I'm conscious of like my neighbors. Luckily, my neighbors are pretty cool. But I can't play my djembe for more than 30, 40 minutes. No, without drawing too much attention. If I play my djembe, I'll have a whole crowd of people standing in front of my gate, staring into my property. Because I live on this road of the penguin sanctuary and there's so many people walking past. And so the road gets blocked up in front of my house if I play my drum for too long. because people stop and they want to listen to the rhythm and whatever. So I've got to be like limiting to how much I play the djembe. But I play my hand drums. I do love playing the djembes, and I've become a little bit lazy to playing the djembe. I used to play my djembe for hours and hours, but now I can play my hand drums for hours and hours because I'm ambidextrous, so I switch hands on the drum, and it's lighter on the arms. Playing a djembe is pretty heavy on the arms, and it's a different kind of a rhythm. So, but yeah, I do play my drums. But I also listen to the heart drum. You see, there's a receptive element, listening to the heart drum. That's a big drum that we can really benefit from. So I see we are now 2 hours, 21, 36. So this is 20 minutes more than I planned. I do have to call it now because it's 11:21 p.m. here. And I wake up in the morning to climb the mountain. That's something I will say to you. Balance your meditation with poetry, with playing music, with dancing, with hatha yoga, with going for a walk in the park or climbing the mountain or going for a swim in the sea or walking on the beach or go for a jog or something. You want to get the energy flowing through your body, and you want to bring that energy into the physical manifestational field so that there's not too much energy in the higher chakras, which is why we want to focus them on the lower chakras. So this will actually improve the meditation in the long run. Even though it seems almost counterintuitive, it's something to be aware of. So yeah, big love, big peace, big honor, big respect. So much love to all of you. I pray you got what you came for, and that you all have an absolutely fantastic Sunday wherever you are, whether you're in America and it's the day, or if you're in Europe or whatever, it's the evening. Did that little doggy teleport himself outdoors? I thought I heard him outside. So yeah, take it easy. Big smiles, big love. Until the next time. Next time, oh, by the way, next Sunday, same time, we'll be looking at shadow work. Different ways of working with the shadow. So if you're interested, join me at BushWhisperer Speaks into the YouTube channel, into the YouTube search. Same time next Sunday for an expansion into shadow work and different ways of working with the shadow, which is actually a component that works with meditation. And then possibly a supplement in maybe the week after that to meditation. If not the week after that, the week after that. I'll see what wants to follow after the shadow work, which we will look at how to extend that meditation time easily using paradigm shift potential. That will be a shorter one. It won't have to be 2 hours. I think 45 minutes will be enough to look at the paradigm shifting potential. It's something that I discovered in the 90s that really it like I must have come across it in 95, that really took my meditation to a whole nother level and showed me how I can really extend the time of meditation. And I think that that's like really key. Like if you get to the point where you're meditating for 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours, whenever you have that time, you'll notice how this paradigm shift becomes a very powerful tool. So Om Namah Shivaya, Shanti, 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 Bravo. Jai Bholenath. Have an absolutely awesome day, and keep the smiles alive. Big love.